thank you all for coming back. Thank you for what you did today on the Hill. We'll continue our discussion tomorrow, but now we have, as you know, a very, very special guest that we've been lucky to bring with us. Don't have to tell you that Senator Elizabeth Warren, now just elected to the Senate in 2012, has been not only a breath of fresh air, she's been a tornado, a hurricane of fresh air for what we believe in on retirement security issues. She early on saw the pitfalls of what the big banks were doing that led to the crash of 2007 and 2008 and stood up to fight against them. With now we have a Consumer Protection Bureau in place fighting for us. She was one of the earliest people to warn against the dangers of free trade and of the investors' state dispute resolution, that phony arbitration system that the drug companies are using now as well. But in all of this too, just this year on the Senate Budget Committee, she put forth for the first time an amendment that Social Security should be expanded, not just protected, expanded. And got nearly all of her Democratic colleagues with you. She has helped, like your activism out in the field, change the debate on Social Security. No more defense. It's now time for offense and expand. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give Senator Warren the biggest round of applause we have.
Ready to go. So I just want to start by saying how much I appreciate the invitation. I am here for exactly one reason, and that is because after a lifetime of hard work, Americans are entitled to retire with dignity. That's where we start. And for me, this is an economic issue, and we're going to talk a lot about economics, but it is also a moral issue. Getting this right is a measure of who we are as a people and what kind of a country we are determined to build. So I know that you all, more than anyone, follow the basics about what's happening to America's seniors, and that we have our toes right on the edge of a major retirement crisis in this country. But we have to talk about it because this is kind of our starting point of understanding what it is that we're out there fighting for. You know, we've got three problems, and everyone overuses the perfect storm analogy today. But boy, they really have intersected when we're talking about retirement. The first one is that increasingly, families are hitting their retirement years with less savings and more debt. And that's because the economy has simply gotten a whole lot tougher, not just in the last 5 years, but in the last 35 years for America's hardworking families. So we start with the fact that today, for those who are right on the edge of retirement, a third have not a single dollar in savings. Another third have less than a year's worth of income. So the whole notion that you could gather up during your working years and have a nest egg, as it used to be called, to count on for your retirement years has effectively disappeared. The squeeze on the middle class is now the squeeze on America's retirees. And that's part one of what's gone wrong. Part two is the defined benefit plans have simply been cut in half. They're just not there for so many of America's workers. About 40% of those who are approaching retirement have not a single dollar in employment-related retirement plans. They're just not there anymore. And the defined benefit plan, the plan that you can't outlive, the one that's going to be there no matter what, is just disappearing. And this is one of those places where, once again, we watch the impact of income inequality. So that for those in the top quartile of earnings, about 90% have at least some employment retirement plan. Those in the bottom quartile have less than 20% of them have a retirement plan of some kind. So it's not just the percentage overall, it's the distribution pulls apart in terms of whether or not their employers offer any kind of retirement plan. So that's the second part. The defined benefit plans, the employer-sponsored plans have shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And then the third part, and that is at a time when families must must count on Social Security more than ever, the Republicans have attacked it and want to do everything they can to undermine it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's hear a big round of boo around the head for that. You know, I always remind myself on this, Social Security is a very modest payment, but at least it is a payment that will last for all of your life, and that's what makes it critical. For 2/3 of all seniors, Social Security is what's putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads. And for 14 million seniors, Social Security is all that stands between them and poverty. Social Security works for America, and that's what we have to remember. You bet. You bet. But here's the problem. It is under attack. The Republicans are trying to privatize Social Security. They are trying to find every way they can, and we're going to talk about in just a minute one of their latest tricks to try to create a funding crisis around Social Security. Now, the way I see this, we can talk about the problem with savings, we can talk about the problem with private retirement plans, we can talk about the problem with Social Security. We can whimper, we can whine, or we can fight back. Me, I'm fighting back. And I want to be here because I want to be with fighters. Are you all ready to fight on this? That's what we have to. Yes, that's what I like to see. Somebody ready to fight. So, you're going to stick with me for just a minute, I hope, here, because I've got 4 specific asks for you. When you go back home, as you're thinking about this, I know you've already been around the hill, but I want you to think about 4 things that for me and the work I'm doing are kind of right on the front edge, and then we'll kind of wrap it all together. The first one has to do with people who are trying to invest for their retirement. And we've got a serious problem in this country. And that is, while lots of people get good retirement advice from a broker who will tell them about where they should put their money, a lot of people don't. And right now, there is a loophole in the law that you could drive 2 semis through side by side without scratching them up. And the consequence is that someone selling retirement plans can put his or her own interests ahead of the customer. So true. In fact, I'll tell you exactly how true it is. It is true to the tune of $17 billion a year that just drains out of the pockets of hardworking people. That's every year, because some retirement advisors are putting people into plans that will increase the chances that they make more money, that will increase their ability, ready for this, to get vacations, to get cars, to earn points toward a Super Bowl style ring. We've been collecting the information on this, on what kinds of payments are offered to get some retirement advisors to put their interests ahead of the interests of their customers. So this one really costs. Now, we got good news on this front, and that is the Department of Labor just a couple of months ago issued new rules, and it's called the Conflict of Interest Rule. They said retirement advisors, all of them, not just some of them, but all of the retirement advisors have to use what's called a fiduciary standard. They've got to put the best interests of the customer first. And they can't sell products just to get a vacation, just to get some piece of fancy jewelry. Can't do that anymore. That's the good news. The department has issued the rule. Here's the bad news. The industry has about 17 billion reasons to push back on that. And they're organized, and they're out there pushing back. So when the rule becomes final, there's going to be an effort in Congress to overturn the rule. So the president has given us a good rule. Bless President Obama on this one. This is a good rule. The president has given us a good rule through the Department of Labor, but we're going to have a fight on our hands later this year to hold on to the rule. So there's my first ask, that you know about this rule, and when this fight starts to heat up, that you're ready to wade right into the middle of it. We're going to need you on this rule, the conflict of interest rule supporting the Department of Labor. We'll count on you. The second one, Affordable Care Act and Medicare. You know, all of you know, the Affordable Care Act closes the donut hole. That's about $920 a year for about 80,000 people in Massachusetts and for millions across the country. It provides a free annual exam. Again, in Massachusetts, it's about 900,000 seniors that get a free annual exam, and we all know the consequences of getting your annual exam, right? You're safer, you're healthier, all good stuff. That's because of the Affordable Care Act. And there, as you know, is a huge debate that continues to rage around Affordable Care Act. And so much of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is argued, debated in terms of getting health insurance to those who didn't have health insurance. And I just want to say on that, God bless, it is an important thing that more than 10 million people who did not have health insurance before have health insurance today. Yes. But that's not all the Affordable Care Act is doing. The Affordable Care Act is making sure that seniors can afford their prescription drugs. It's making sure that seniors get access to a free annual exam. So that brings me to an ask on this one, and that is to make it clear that the Affordable Care Act, that Obamacare, is a senior issue. It is an issue for those who care about the economic stability of our seniors and for those who care about their health and longevity. So I want to count on you on this one. Can I count on you on this one? Good. Good. And by the way, while we're talking about that, you know how you hear conversations around Medicaid? And the question is, so who is it that Medicaid is really serving? Do keep in mind, it's seniors in nursing homes are a huge part of the Medicare population. Mm-hmm. It is the most vulnerable among us, and it is those among us who can't come to Washington to be able to advocate on their own behalf. So once again, in the same way that Obamacare is an issue for seniors, Medicaid is an issue for seniors. So can we count on you on this? All right, good. Okay, so the second one is about the issues for seniors. Third one that I want to talk about is I want to talk about the Social Security crisis. Okay? This is a manufactured crisis that I want to talk about first. And this is the Disability Fund and the Retirement Fund. There have always been two funds for Social Security. Now, we all know about the retirement one. Everybody knows about the Retirement Fund. The Disability Fund, people know just a little bit less about. So just in case, let me just remind everybody here. You know, from age 40 to 50, your odds of becoming disabled double. And from age 50 to 60, they double once again. So Social Security disability insurance is just exactly that. Just like retirement insurance, you've paid in all along, and you have an insurance policy in effect. And that insurance is there for those who become disabled. That's what it is that people have paid for. And it is very much there for seniors. About 70% of those who are collecting disability insurance are 50 or older, for exactly the reasons, just for exactly the reasons that you identify. The Republicans have stepped in, and by the way, I should say about these two accounts, the retirement account and the disability account, money moves back and forth between them just to keep them in the right cash flow. This has happened 11 times in the past, that money moves from one to the other. Sometimes it moves one way because of the way the cash has come in, and sometimes it moves the other way. So next year, we're going to need to move money. You can just tell by doing the projections. We're going to need to move money from the retirement plan over to the disability plan. We've done this before. We'll make sure there's money everywhere, right? But that's the idea, is the flexibility between the two. So what did the House Republicans do? On literally the first day that they were in session this year, they came in and passed a rule to prevent routine transfers. And if we can't fix that, if that goes through the Senate as well, now they only got it through the House, but this is the Republican initiative, their number one priority when they came in was to say no more transfers. The consequence would be people who are living on Social Security disability would see a 20% cut in their incomes. This is not a lot to be living on, and these are folks who are disabled. So their long-term plan, why would they do this? The answer is to create a crisis and to create a lot of crisis headlines. Whoa, crisis headline, and to try to pit one group that uses Social Security against another group that uses Social Security. Think about this. This is just part of the plan to dismantle Social Security. It's part of the plan to say Social Security's in crisis, so let's privatize part of it. Social Security's in crisis, so let's cut the benefits. Social Security's in crisis, so let's reduce the Social Security taxes so we can move more of that to the private sector. No, no, and no. So this is where we need your help again. You bet. What we need to talk about on this one is, it is a manufactured crisis? No. Protecting Social Security means protecting Social Security, and that means the retirement portion of Social Security and the disability portion of Social Security. Okay, I'm about to finish my geeky part here, but I got to get through all of these, and that is to come to the key, and that is Social Security retirement. Social Security retirement is foundational. It is part of our economics, and it is part of our values. We protect the Social Security system. And this one is pretty straightforward. There is going to be no more talk about cutting Social Security. Are we all clear on that? No more talk. No more talk. The question is no longer, do we cut Social Security a lot or do we cut it a little? The question is, do we expand it a little or do we expand it a lot? We need to strengthen Social Security. We do have a problem with Social Security. We know that if we keep paying at the same rates and bringing in money at the same rates, that we're going to end up cutting benefits in about 20 years. It's a terrible idea. We have got to make Social Security secure and stable, and we must expand Social Security for those who rely on it most. That's got to be where we're headed on this. So, whenever words come up around Social Security, I just want you to remember, strengthen and expand. That's where we are. Strengthen and expand. I want to hear everybody say it. Strengthen and expand. Exactly, because that's what we've got to do. So, I want to make one more point about all of this. I wanted to be here. As soon as I got this invitation, I said, yes, I'm going to come do this. Are you kidding? These are peeps. Fighters. People, look, this wasn't the job I never thought I was going to have after I was 60 years old. You got to get out there and fight for what you believe in. And I get a chance to be in a room full of people who not only believe it, they get up and act on it. You bet I'm going to be there. But I want to make a key point to everybody in this room. And that is, when you fight for seniors, when you fight on Social Security, when you fight on making sure the rules are fair, on private pensions, when you fight, you're not only fighting for today's seniors, you're not only fighting for the people who have their toes right on the edge of retirement, you're fighting for our kids. That's right. Yeah. You're fighting for our kids. Yeah. One of the things we've all got to remember is, what do the long-term trends look like? Work is changing in this country. The number of employers that a young person today is likely to have before he or she hits retirement age is going up every year. The number of years that people will spend as independent contractors, that they'll spend working 3 part-time jobs instead of 1 full-time job, that they'll piece together what they can piece together over time. It's all changing out there. And that means that Social Security is going to be an even more critical part of our social contract tomorrow than it is today. So when you're out there fighting, you're fighting for today's seniors, but more importantly, you're fighting for the future of the young people in this country. So
Yes.
force be with you on this. You know, this is all tough stuff. It's tough stuff because we've known now on Social Security. Let's get serious here. We've known for a long time. You can do the projections. We've adjusted Social Security for years, multiple times, coming out of the Great Depression after we built Social Security, because it turned out people lived longer, people worked longer, you had changes. Women went into the workplace who hadn't before, and we always kept adjusting Social Security. And then Social Security turned into a political football. Instead of just making the adjustments as we needed to make as we went along, when you could have made tiny little adjustments, small adjustments that would barely be noticed, every year that goes by, keep putting that off, keep putting that off, keep putting that off. And that is something that we got to change. We've got to be willing to get out there and fight. To say protecting and expanding Social Security is a key issue right now for everybody in this room. It is a key issue in the 2016 elections for everybody who wants to run for office, and we got to make that so. We got to make that so. Look, I haven't been in Washington a long time, but I have been here long enough to figure out change is really hard in this place. We are on a path right now, though, that we must change. We must change for the security of our seniors. We must change for the security of our kids. We have got to make a series of decisions as a country about what kind of a people we are and what kind of a country we are going to build. Are we truly going to be a country that says the top is going to do great, they're going to do fabulously, and everyone else is going to be left behind? Are we going to be a country that says Washington works great if you've got an army of lobbyists who are making $1 zillion a year, if you've got an army of lobbyists, Washington is a place for you. It is absolutely working, I guarantee that. But not a place that works for anyone else. Are we going to be a country that says, in effect, I got mine, the rest of you are on your own? That is not only not who we are as a people, it is not how we built a great country. And so the way I see this is we have truly come to a fork in the road. The time for choices is upon us. And one path is clear. It's been out there. I mean, you really got to give the Republicans a lot of credit. They have stood up and made it very, very clear where they stand. They want a world where the top does really great and the rest is left behind.
Yep.
What's wrong with that world is that ultimately there's a whole lot less to go around for everyone. And that our moral commitment to the idea on which this country was built, and that is that everyone has an opportunity, has a chance, can get in the game, has a fighting chance to get in there and build a little something for himself or herself. That's who we are, and that's what we're here to fight for. I'm here with today's fighters, and I appreciate it. We got to get out there and make this happen. I'm telling you. Thank you. Thank you.